First, there are more mobile devices than humans on the planet. Not oversold. Right now, there are over 7 billion mobile devices in use. Computer sales, desktops like this thing I'm using right here on the thing, are relatively plummeting. PC sales dropped 95% in 2013. Mobile traffic grew 80% in 2013, which I believe just on the face of it. Depending on the survey, as many as 2/3 of people in the US only have a mobile internet device or prefer to use their mobile device even when they're sitting right in front of a computer or there's one in the next room. What we used to know about touch, what everybody promulgated, was what Apple told us, 44-pixel touch target. But that was based on some conveniences of the platform's design and pixel sizes. It's not based on the real world. We know now that diagrams like this are wrong. And by the way, you should tell anybody who repeats it and says thumb sweep zones. Because we know that touch accuracy has nothing to do with finger or thumb size. We know it has no direct relationship to reach. And that doesn't matter because not everybody holds their phone like this anyway. I'm going to give you 10 kind of behaviors and truths about the world. And if you just remember the basic guidelines, which I nicely boiled down to you in bullet lists, then you're pretty close to getting a good understanding of stuff. First, it's easy to make assumptions and to confuse empathy with your own point of view. Your users are not like you or your friends. And there's no one way per user, because people change the way they work with phones, regularly shifting their grip to reach another area with another finger, to type with 2 thumbs, or, as you're seeing there, to cradle, as I call it, the device with another hand for stability or extra reach. And we can note that, say, 75% of people only touch the screen with 1 thumb. But that can be a little misleading, because less than half also hold the phone with 1 hand. And that's just for phones, small phones like the iPhone. Well, at least until recently. Much less so for phablets and tablets. 36% cradle the device, as I said, putting another hand on there for reach or stability. And fully 10% simply hold it in 1 hand and tap with another finger, giving a totally different interaction. People actually will sit around, scroll, switch and type. In general, users, for every portable touchscreen device, I don't want to extend it, it's not true for kiosks and stuff, prefer to touch the center of the screen. These are the actual tap positions when users selected items from a full screen scrolling list. They got to pick how far they scrolled, centered the item generally, put it in that area, and then tapped on it, and that's the recorded position. I can't find any evidence those kind of things are really true. This is the way I've observed people clicking, recorrelating a bunch of the data. There will be an article about this in about a week, so you can dive into it in much more detail if you want. I just stole the graphic from myself and put it up here in advance for you. Of the time to tap on the various little squares on an iPhone 5 alone. He did it with one of these things with 1 hand only. And what do you know? The center is faster, the corners are slower and more difficult to touch. So place your key actions in the middle half to 2/3 of the screen. Put options and secondary functions along the top and bottom edges. Don't worry about how far people can reach with 1 hand, even on bigger phones and tablets. People shift their grips and move their devices around to reach secondary actions when it's time to. I think I said briefly earlier that finger size doesn't matter for touch, and it doesn't. If I didn't say that, finger size doesn't matter for touch accuracy or anything like that. But fingers do matter because they're opaque. They get in the way of what else is happening on the screen. This one's anecdotal, basically because I can take pictures of it. For example, this is where people scroll on the page. So, which is great, looks like cool data, but why 3 distinct areas? Because they have to do with what content is being displayed at the time. So it appears from this and some other observations, people aren't confident gesturing, scrolling, for example, in areas where there's content they want to look at or where they feel they might tap. Stop saying fragmentation as though it's a bad thing. Respect user choice. These devices are all different because people's needs are different, and this is reflected in the way the devices are used. In general, the smaller the device is, the more it's used on the move. As devices get larger, they're used less and less held in the hand. Distance from the eye can be surmised by device class. Small handsets are held very close to the eye, larger ones and phablets a little bit further away. People are never going to be able to precisely click your target. There's literally always inaccuracy, but we can account for it in design. So touch isn't just inaccurate, but it's apparently inconsistently inaccurate. So we know that people are more accurate in the center of the screen. We do mean pretty much any screen, tablets or handsets and small handsets and big handsets and phablets and everything. If you map that differently, instead of blobby target things, we can assign little target size grids and figure out how much room is needed between items in various parts of the screen. And notice that, say, the sides are a little bit worse than the center of the screen. The top and bottom, as I said, require a lot more room. Corners are just the worst, just ugh. And the most expected controls are those that are visible and communicate what they do accurately. Phones are dead flat, right? Well, no. Lots of devices actually have a raised bezel, as it's called. The thing next to the screen is a bezel. Take your design out of Graphel or Visio or Axure or Photoshop or InDesign or whatever it is you draw in. Get it off the computer and onto the handset. There's no need for clever prototype tools, though Get Launch and PopApp and all those do work well. Just stick the screens in the device gallery or something.